Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Melanie Little. I am a retired New York City police detective, and Melanie, you are an experienced trial attorney. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight, breaking on the news front on the Kohberger case. Prosecutor Bill Thompson and the Attorney General's office announced 25 days in advance that they will be going for the death penalty in this case. So thanks to a bunch of our viewers, Melanie, I received a flooding of inquiries and, hey, DutyRon, did you see this? Hey, DutyRon. And what did I do? I reached out to you. So, Melanie, we got a lot to talk about tonight, but I wanted to just say thank you to our Patreon supporters, the channel members, the folks who positively engage and subscribe to this community. You guys are what makes this a great place. And both Melanie, Ed, and myself, we give thanks to you guys. So thank you for your viewership. And thank you for going over to Melanie's channel and checking out her recently uploaded video. Melanie, just a quick take on, before we start showing media and getting into the meat and potatoes of this thing. 25 days they had to make the decision whether they were going to prosecute under the capital punishment statute in the state of Idaho, which we know has a firing squad and lethal injection, but they can't get the drugs from the manufacturers. So they recently had a ruling where they instituted the firing squad, which is, on some people's would say, barbaric, but very instantaneous, very quick. Some argue that it's quicker than lethal injection or the electric chair. It's not an option here, but I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on that, Melanie.
Well, I don't think we want my thoughts on the exact death penalty or the manner of death penalty, but the state did upgrade the charges, not really upgrade the charges. We knew this was coming, but they have decided to seek the death penalty. They had 60 days from the date of the arraignment to file a notice that they intend to seek the death penalty, and that's what we saw filed today. So he was arraigned on, I believe, May 22nd, so technically they had 60 days from that date, and they did file it a bit early. It's very important that they file it before the deadline, because if they don't file it within 60 days, they can never file it. But if they do file it within 60 days, they can always withdraw it later if that's what they decide to do. But I think we all saw this coming.
Right. And you know, we spoke strongly about this during the course of, the time from January when he was collared, and I'm using cop jargon, when he was arrested in January. We did speak about this, and a lot of our retired law enforcement and a lot of the attorneys and so forth agree that when you have the proper evidence, and again, there's so much information out there that is keeping people I don't want to say keeping people from the truth, but keeping people in suspended animation. Do they have enough evidence? Do they not have enough evidence? Really, everybody that's speaking about it, including us, we really don't know what Bill Thompson and the Attorney General's office of the state of Idaho have against Bryan Kohberger. But we would have to say, and we would have to argue, that if they are acting in good faith, to go ahead with the capital punishment portion of this and to try him under the death penalty in the state of Idaho, you better have some pretty good damning evidence. And if you don't, that, in my opinion, would be very unprofessional for someone to do. And again, I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, 100%. And I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what the evidence may be. There's so much speculation out there and so much armchair detective going on that, people are speculating that there's just not enough evidence yet. And, I haven't seen enough evidence yet, in my own opinion, but I have to believe that they have a lot more than we're seeing right now. The gag order has been amended, which is allowing law enforcement and certain other personnel to speak about the case, but not if it, whatever they say, will prejudice the case. So they have to be very careful about what they say. But since there's been a gag order in place since the beginning of this case, there's really not a lot we know other than what is in the public documents that are filed in the courthouse.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, a lot of people, and again, a lot of people have thoughts and opinions. And as some of our friends say, there's a lot of spitballing, there's a lot of people throwing things around without real, true evidence and facts to back it up. And the the bottom line here is, at the end of everything here, the burden of proof is on the state. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Bryan Kohberger did commit the murders here in this case. And if in fact they didn't, and I know that you always say this, the jury
Right.
are the fact finders.
The jury is the finder of fact, and they're going to need 12 people to unanimously agree
Right.
that he did this, and also unanimously agree on the death penalty.
Yeah. Let's take a listen to this quickly, and then we'll come right back and we'll continue that conversation.
And I'm holding new court documents out of Latah County, Idaho, as we're learning now that prosecutors will seek capital punishment. They will seek the death penalty there for Bryan Kohberger. This is new information that we're following here on Live Now from Fox. I want to put up a tweet just to show these court filings one more time, as the state of Idaho will seek the death penalty against Bryan Kohberger. He's accused of killing those 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus home last fall. So this is certainly some big news here on Live Now from Fox. In the court filing, it says that these counts, at the time of the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. Also, the murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting a sexual depravity. The murder or circumstances surrounding its commission exhibited utter disregard for human life. And in the end, they say the state gives this notice based on the fact that it is not identified or been provided with any mitigating circumstances sufficient to prohibit the tiers of fact from considering all penalties authorized by the Idaho legislature, including the possibility of capital sentence. So the state has filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty against Bryan Kohberger. This in new court filings here on this Monday. And the factors, like I just read, contributing to the notice include the fact that at the time of the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. The murders were also especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. So something we're following here very, very closely is the 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary in connection with the stabbing deaths of those Moscow, Idaho, those 4 students. The judge noted that this is, quote, potentially facing the death penalty if found guilty. So those 4 individuals there.
So I want to go to you, Melanie, because that reporter was speaking kind of quick. Can you give our audience a little bit of what he was saying there? He was talking fast, and I hate to put you on the spot like that.
Sure. That's okay, because I have it right in front of me, actually. So the reason that the state says that they are seeking the death penalty is because not only are they accusing him of committing first-degree murder, but you have to have one of these 5 categories in addition to the murder to seek the death penalty. First one is that at the time the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. We know this because he is accused of committing 4 murders. Number 2, the murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. I think we can all agree on that. Number 3, that the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. Number 4, that the murder was also perpetrated in conjunction with, let's say, arson, rape, robbery, burglary, kidnapping, or mayhem, and reckless indifference to human life. And the 5th one would be that the defendant has exhibited a propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society.
Yeah.
So,
and we know that the felony burglary charge was added into the charges, in addition to 1 of 4 murders that he allegedly committed. So I want to go to the chat because I like to keep this live and interactive. For the folks who are watching, and don't be shy with this one, because this is a poll that I kind of keep tabs on these polls, and I could have put it in there and let everybody vote, but I think it takes away from everyone's attention when they're starting to vote and get confused. And, what should I? If you feel that Bryan Kohberger did in fact commit, and this isn't even a fair poll, but I just want to see how many people are feeling that we got the right guy, and let's see how many people feel we got the right guy. Put a 1. If you feel they got the wrong guy, put a 2. let's just see, Melanie, how this is split down the middle. So one would be, yes, the state of Idaho got the right guy. Number two would be the murderer is still out there.
Or how about number 3? He did not act alone.
Well, I don't
And
want to
maybe there's other ones. All right, let's not confuse it, but
keep it 1 and 2. But yeah, that's actually a good one because many people feel that way as well. So I know that now that you said it, we'll see a couple number 3s.
sorry, don't use number 3. Ron will get mad at me. He won't ask me to come back.
No, that's not true. All right, so I see overwhelming number 1s. I'm not surprised by that, but there are a great deal of folks who feel that that they don't have the right guy. And Melanie, I want to try to talk about this in a sensible way as to why this is happening, why people feel this. I know that, Ann Taylor, which is Bryan Kohberger's defense team, she is one of 3 attorneys that are capital punishment qualified, right? They're making requests, and they're also making statements that they feel the defense does not have his DNA, his blood at the crime scene.
Wait, that the prosecution does not have it, right? Not the defense.
Right, yeah, the defense is claiming that the prosecution does not have all of the evidence, DNA related. What a reasonable person would believe that Bryan Kohberger's blood would be in that crime scene and commingled with the decedent's. 2, his Pullman apartment. 3, his car. Now, I want to just add a caveat to this thing. He had a good month, a good 30 days, maybe a little bit more, actually, to November 13th. He was collared at the end of December. So his arrest, he had a month and a half to clean his vehicle, to clean his home, to clean everything and anything, to get rid of anything and everything. A 30 to 45 day period. That's a long time. But Melanie, again, there's tons of YouTube attorneys that are making videos claiming that the prosecution's case is crumbling. Why?
Well, I think the defense has come out and said that none of the victim's DNA was found in any of Bryan Kohberger's homes, offices, locations. So there's an absence. I guess they're arguing there's an absence of evidence there. We also don't know, other than the touch DNA that was found on the knife sheath. Wow, that's like a tongue twister. Knife sheath. Try and say that 5 times fast. Was the touch DNA on the knife sheath that was left behind belongs to him. There's like a 99.9999999.9% probability that it is his touch DNA. But aside from that, we haven't heard about any of his blood, any of his hair, any of his other DNA being left at the crime scene. So I think because of the absence of those things, there's a lot of speculation that either he was framed or that there's no way he possibly could have done it because the crime scene was so bloody and so messy that he had to have left something behind. Right. I think that leaves a lot of room for speculation.
Yeah. And I want to say, I had Barbara Butcher, who is a retired New York City medical examiner's chief of staff. She was a legal medical death investigator. She investigated over 687 homicides, murders in the city of New York. Barbara and Ed Wallace. Ed Wallace is a CSI expert. He's my co-host. He's my brother in blue. Ed has processed over 2,500 crime scenes as a crime scene unit detective. They both were on months and months ago and said there is a 0.0 chance, 0.0% that he did not leave something inside that crime scene. And there is a very low chance that he didn't take something from that crime scene. Now, when I say take, meaning take it and bring it with him. That's not what we're talking about. It's
Right.
the Lacard's exchange principle. And for Bryan Kohberger to go in there, and people say out there in the Twitter sphere and on Reddit and all of these subreddits and all of this stuff, that he went in there in a Tyvek suit and he was like, you see when you go into the medical examiner's office, or you go into a contaminated zone where you see the mask, the hoodie, the Tyvek suit. People are saying that there's a chance that he Tyvek suited up and went in there. But if in fact he did do that, we'll hear about it at the trial, because they have, according to earlier reports, they have some video of him, courtesy of the neighbor. There's talk of this neighbor's camera, video ring camera, or whatever they had on their front porch, of allegedly Bryan Kohberger going in the back and leaving and getting in his car and driving away. And these are things that nobody's speaking about, because it's forgotten and it's in the past. And I wanted to bring this out just to show everybody, I have notes and notes. Like I have a whole folder here of Kohberger stuff, and most of it is evidence. We have to understand that, and I'm not stuck for words here, because I'm just trying to think of a proper way to put this to everybody. We have to understand that the prosecution is going to use the letter of the law. As we saw, this is almost like a chess game. They're going to use the letter of the law to their advantage, not to illegally withhold information, but to release the information if and when they have to do it. When they have to do it, they'll do it. Now, Ann Taylor, the defense team, is pissed off because they're not giving them what they want. So now, in the defense of their client, they're making these statements like, they don't have his blood evidence. They don't have anything in his apartment. Well, I have a whole 3 pages of, you and I went over the apartment findings and everything that they took out of there. It's quite a lot of stuff. I don't want to get into that here, but go ahead, Mel.
Right. We don't know what that stuff means. It's just a list of stuff. But they're also pointing out now that there were 3 other items that were left at the scene that contained the DNA of 3 different men. There was a glove found outside the house, which is reminiscent of another famous murder case. And there were some other items that had some other male DNA on them. We don't know what they are. I don't know what they are. Do you, Ron?
Right. But we can argue that was, as we come to find out after the fact, a party house. We saw the body cam footage of those 2 officers from Moscow Police on 2 or 3 separate occasions go to that home on 1122 King Road. And there's people partying. There's guys in there. There's guys that don't even know who own the place or who lives there. And it's a party house. And listen, that doesn't say anything. This is how college life is. There's many homes. There's many party houses like this on and off campus. So the male DNA that they could have been referring to could have been a party goer. Could have been. But this number, the 5.387 octillion match of Bryan Kohberger's DNA profile, if that doesn't say enough, I don't know what does.
I think the argument's going to be that it was planted there, that he's so smart that he never would have left that knife sheath there. That's what the argument's going to be. I can tell you right now, right? Because if that is the only thing that they have, and there's no blood, there's no hair, there's no fibers, there's nothing else, it's virtually impossible for there to be nothing else, right? So let's hope they have something else. Otherwise, they wouldn't be seeking the death penalty.
Right.
They have to be sure that they've got a slam dunk here. We're just not seeing the slam dunk yet. At least I'm not. I know that you are. Right. That's why you're a retired detective and I'm a lawyer. And I'm not taking sides here. I'm just saying that if I was sitting on a jury with what they have, with what I know right now that is admissible in court, I don't say that I don't honestly say that I could sit here and say beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. At this point. And I understand that. Here, Rian the Diva says, no DNA found in the Elantra. How do we know that?
How about this one?
If Bryan Kohberger's DNA was transferred by somebody else and placed onto the sheath, that somebody's DNA would also have to be on the sheath.
Unless
Yet
they wore
nobody
gloves.
else's DNA on that sheath.
If he wore gloves when he was taking his garbage out, right? When they caught him in Pennsylvania. And there's been a lot of talk about this. The guy's wearing gloves. Wouldn't
December
he be wearing
30th.
gloves during this? Why would these DNA be? I don't know. There's
December
a lot of.
30th. Yeah. December 30th, he was found at 4 a.m. in his home in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, in the Poconos, gloved up, cleaning up his car. They were watching him with high-powered binoculars or some type of advanced Taru type devices that the FBI was using. And don't forget, the FBI was involved in this case. And the FBI is the one who is putting a stamp on that 5.387 octillion match to Bryan Kohberger. We can, like I said, we could go back and forth with this thing. Lauren Crime. I love Anjanette Levy and Jesse Weber. Anjanette was live about 3 hours ago, and her title for her live was very shocking. Bryan Kohberger's lawyer claims accused killer has no link to the Idaho students' murders. I want to play a little bit of this because this is, you know, like I said, I love Lauren Crime and I'm a fan of these guys. But this is what gets people going in different directions. And I'm not, listen, I don't want to, I like this back and forth. I think this is good.
Right.
And I think it's great for us to challenge.
Right. I mean, you know, I love to play devil's advocate. I mean, that's what I'm doing here more than anything else. But I'm thinking, like, you know, there are a lot of people feeling the things that I'm saying. So I feel like somebody has to say them.
It's not a sleeve. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Maybe I'll make it a sleeve.
What does it say? I can't see it.
Go up. It just says rise above.
Oh.
Anyways, Iron Range Rube, thank you for the $10 super chat and the question about the tattoo. So we're gonna listen. Lieutenant Pete Pranzo is in the chat. A lot of great people are here. A lot of new people. We're gonna get to your comments and questions as we always do, right, Melanie? We're not gonna leave anybody out in the dust. So Robbie,
no, we go long if we have to. Don't worry.
Robbie's here from Australia, and he's one of I noticed in Police Off the Cuff last night when I sent in that $50 super chat. Robbie was saying that you're a hottie.
He also invited me for fish and chips by the sea or something.
But you'd have to get on Qantas and then take a flight over there.
Oh, he's over there? Oh, damn.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a listen. Let's take a listen to this. We always have to throw a little bit of humor into this because
it gets gruesome and it gets, you know.
Yeah. Sheila, thank you for becoming a member. Greatly appreciated. And guys, if you can, just smash that thumbs up while you're here watching. Let's take a listen to what Anjanette Levy had to say about the Kohberger's side, talking about his innocence.
For October. And in newly filed court documents, his lawyers say none of the victims' DNA was found in Kohberger's apartment, home, office, or car. The revelation came in court documents filed by Kohberger's lawyers.
Thank you, Eve Lucky, for the $20 super chat.
Active order on the investigative genetic genealogy the FBI used to ID Kohberger as a suspect. Prosecutors claim Kohberger, dressed in all black, went into the house on King Road after 4 a.m. on November 13th of last year, and in less than 20 minutes, killed all 4 students by stabbing. Then they say he got into his white Hyundai Elantra and took off, driving a longer route back to his apartment in Pullman, Washington. The arrest of Kohberger happened 6 weeks after the murders, so that's plenty of time to clean up. And a source had told me some time ago that Kohberger's car appeared to be bleached. But getting rid of blood can be incredibly difficult. Blood, of course, contains DNA. Kohberger's defense team also claims prosecutors are hiding crucial parts of the investigation from them that they want to see, including the genetic genealogy the FBI used to build family trees that led them to the Kohberger family.
I want to just stop it right there for a second and put us back on because I'm going to be uploading a previous live video that Ed Wallace and I did. We had Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick, who is a genetic genealogist. She is a expert in this field. We had her on with us right before Christmas, and she provided us with the most fabulous information as it pertains to this. So I asked our producer in California, Josh, to cut up that video and upload a 10 to 15 minute max video that I'm going to either release on a premiere where we could chat about it, or just release it as a video upload. So let me know in the comments section if you'd like to see Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick on a premiere where we can chat and type with the chat like this, or would you rather me upload it? So if you want to see the premiere, press a 1. If you want to see an upload, press a 2. And let me know in the comment section if you're watching on the replay. This stuff is what makes this case. And if in fact the defense, what they're saying or what these reporters are talking about, if it in fact that is true, their case is crumbling right underneath their fingertips. But I don't believe that this is the case. But that's just my belief. And again, I don't have access to the case file, nor does Melanie.
Right.
But again, this is all conversation. There's nothing concrete about this. There's no documentation that says that they don't have this. So
Right.
let's let the rest of this play. Law and Crime. I'm a fan of these guys, Jesse and the crew.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
Investigators say Kohberger's DNA was left on the snap of the K-bar knife sheath left next to Maddie Mogen's body. When the test result came back to a single source of male DNA, and it didn't result in a hit in a national database of known felons called CODIS, the FBI turned to genetic genealogy to try to find a suspect. The feds built the family trees from there, and that led them to Kohberger's father and later him. Prosecutors do not want to turn that information over to the defense and have asked the judge for a protective order. In fact, prosecutors cite another case when they claim they shouldn't have to turn over that information. But the defense is having none of it. Kohberger's attorneys say they should get to see the materials that led to their client being labeled a suspect. Kohberger's lawyers also say that 2 other DNA profiles from the King Road home were run through CODIS, along with a male DNA profile found on a glove outside of the home. Kohberger has, of course, pleaded not guilty to 1 count of burglary and 4 counts of first-degree murder in the murders of all 4 students. His trial is set for October. Joining me to discuss the very latest and all of this new information about the...
All right, I'm not going to play all of this because I have Melanie Little here. She brings on an attorney and they talk about this stuff. I want to say thank you to, before we get into this, Mel, somebody just put something in the chat and it went by so fast, but somebody, I think it was Fremont Pathfinder, said, I can't wait to see the electronics and all of the computer and social media and all of that computer forensics. Now, I did a show again, and I don't mean to keep bringing this up about we did this and we did that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a digital cell phone expert come on, and she broke down the geofencing, the tower pings, the social media dumps, the text messaging, and all of the stuff. Now, she didn't obviously have access to what the prosecutor has and what the defense will eventually get. But yeah, I want to see and hear that, because when this trial kicks off, and now they're talking, Judge John Judge ruled that they could have cameras in the courtroom, which I'm all for that. I think that's going to be great because I want to see and hear all of this as it unfolds, right, Mel? I mean,
well, he ruled that the cameras can stay in the courtroom for now, but he reserves the right to change his decision. So, for example, there's a hearing tomorrow at 1:30 Idaho time, and that hearing will have a camera in it.
And
but
what's
I
that
think,
hearing about,
the hearing tomorrow is to stay the proceedings pending release of the complete grand jury records. The defense is asking for the grand jury records. The state is fighting them, saying grand jury records are secret and we shouldn't have to release them to you. So I think they're going to have oral argument tomorrow on that motion, whether the state should have to turn over the records of the grand jury. I think they're agreeing that maybe they're just going to give them audio, and they want everything audio, video, transcripts, the whole shebang. And I think they may be entitled to it. We're going to have to see what the judge says, but they're asking to stay the proceedings or to halt the proceedings or pause the proceedings until that motion is decided. So there's two things happening tomorrow, and we can all probably watch that on Court TV or Law and Crime Live.
I hope everyone tunes in. I'm sure Law and Crime will cover that. Maybe WFLA JB may have it as well. But I want to play a piece from exactly what we're talking about here. So News Nation did a little thing on it. It's just a couple of minutes. I want to play it real quick, and I'll be right back. Melanie, I got to just jump out of here just for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
You got it.
Bryan Kohberger, the presiding judge, is making changes to the gag order. You will remember it barred almost everyone from talking about the case before. Well, under this new gag order issued now, prosecution and defense attorneys can now speak on some matters related to the case, but they must still follow strict guidelines to preserve Kohberger's right to a fair trial.
Did you guys lose sound? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't know. Ron's not here. All right, we're just going to wait for him to come back. I don't know why you can't hear me. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Ron, are you there?
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now? Hello.
Everybody should be able to hear me now. So I shut my camera and it shut the audio feed off as well.
Oh.
So I'm going to just put it back. I know it started probably when Jesse came on because I had to run out of the room and then come back. So that's what happens. So this is some of the things that you get to learn, Melanie, that if you shut your camera off, it shuts the actual whole audio.
Screws everybody up.
So
Okay,
yeah. Anyways, there's Amy laughing. She's Lucille saying, I can hear you. Deco Payton T says, I can hear. All right, let's see. Let's make sure we can hear this.
Kohberger is a match for the DNA that was found on that sheath at the murder scene. The defense claiming that they are unaware of this. Does that strike you as strange? Because aren't they entitled to all of this information?
Look, the defense is doing and saying what we expected them to do, right? They are facing an uphill battle with this monumental development. And you couple that with the surveillance footage, you couple that with the cell phone evidence, and they are making a good point because they're saying that the prosecution is keeping information away from them. And at the end of the day, that's a legal argument. It'll be up to the judge to determine whether or not the prosecution has to turn over more materials to the defense. But we have to be clear about what they're doing here. They are actually previewing what their defense is going to be. Well, how exactly did law enforcement get this material? Did they do anything improper? Did they really have probable cause? Because the best case scenario for them would be to make sure this evidence doesn't come into trial if law enforcement did something improper. And two, if it does come in, they're saying, well, how accurate is it? We have a right to understand the science behind this and understand how it was obtained. And we'll call our own experts and ask our own questions about how reliable genetic genealogy is, because that's the key right now to the prosecution's case.
Okay, I appreciate that insight. And you know, we're hearing that prosecutors are consulting the victims' families on the death penalty. And so far, Xana's mother favors life in prison. Meanwhile, Kaylee and Madison's family members, they are seeking.
Now, obviously, we know this was tonight, but they didn't have the updated information when this was taped. This was played tonight, but it was probably taped before, as we know.
The death penalty. First of all, how common is it for the prosecution to get the family's input? And what does happen when the families are not in agreement?
It's incredibly common. And look at really what the prosecutors have to do is say, They respect what the family wants, but it's really in the pursuit of justice and in their own public interest. And sometimes there's political reasons. They decide whether to go forward with the death penalty or not. Now, in this kind of case, there are a number of different considerations. And you also have to imagine the death penalty phase, if he's ultimately convicted, that's almost like a separate trial. So there's more expense, there's more time. You also have to consider the family members, what that's going to do for them to see this aspect and they having to testify during that. But if you had a death penalty case, this feels like the one in Idaho. I mean, the death penalty is on the books for this kind of case. It's a horrific quadruple homicide. It's incredibly high profile, young victims, savage nature of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if prosecutors decide to move forward with the ultimate punishment.
I do want to talk quickly about this modified gag.
And I've been saying that all along since he was arrested. So kudos to you, Jesse Weber. I really think that, Melanie, I'm going to just take them off and put us back. I really feel that, again, and we talked about this just before we went live. I feel that Bill Thompson, although a lot of people don't have the most confidence in him, people were calling him Santa Claus in the beginning and all this stuff. I feel that Bill Thompson has professional help from the Attorney General's office. And I think that this is the case of a lifetime for Bill Thompson and his entire staff. Okay. Because they were fielding, loud noise complaints, burglaries, petty thefts, assaults amongst college students. Their last murder was 7 years in the past. And it was like a fast food employee that got pissed off at his manager and shot him, and then went home and shot his wife. So it was like, that was the last double.
Shot a lot of people that day. I looked that case up. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is this is not something that they see. This is not a New York City. This is not a Atlanta, Georgia. This is not Chicago, Illinois. This is Moscow, Idaho. So I think that, this quadruple murder is a death penalty case.
It's a case that can make or break your career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at what happened to Marsha Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Where's she now?
Absolutely. Let's go to some of the chat because we're 37, almost 40 minutes into this thing.
I just want to address this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, that is a Buff sign. I am a Buff. I went to Colorado. I went to CU. 2 of my kids went to CU. We're hoping to get a third one there year after next. So yeah, I can't wait to see what Deion Sanders does either. Hopefully we're going to have another great year like when I went there and they won the Orange Bowl. That was amazing. Okay, moving on. I'm going
to play the rest of this because there's a couple of good things I want folks to hear. Anika, thank you so much for that super sticker. She's sending in her love from across the globe. Thank you for being here, and thank you for a long time support. For those of you who are new, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Let's let this is only another minute and a half, so I'm going to just let this play.
Gag order now. What kind of information do you expect we will now be able to hear going forward?
Not much. Basically, the attorneys in the case, like the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, the attorneys that are representing victims, they can talk a little bit about the case, but kind of bare bones, like the scheduling of the trial or what are the nature of the charges. They are allowed to make statements to correct the record if there's some sort of really bad misinformation coming out. But that's it. They can't talk about anything that's going to materially prejudice the case. They can't talk about the evidence. They can't talk about evidence that's not going to be in the case. They can't talk about a plea deal. So I don't really think at this point we're going to learn anything major from the attorneys, but it is for our news organizations a little bit of a win because they can speak a bit more than they were previously not allowed to.
Okay, I appreciate that. We're looking at this new court filing from Kohberger's attorney saying that there is no connection between his client and the 4 students who were murdered. How can he say that when he supposedly followed all 3 of the female?
Is anybody catching on to Jesse's smirk on his face? I gotta just back it up just a tad bit. I know this gets some people pissed off, but watch when Natasha asks him this.
And the 4 students who were murdered. How can he say that when he supposedly followed all 3 of the female victims on Instagram?
It's a little bit of a play on words. Do they mean to say that he had no connection? He was a complete stranger? Because that may very well be the case. But to say he had no connection at this point, I wonder if that's a bit disingenuous, particularly since it's my understanding we don't know the complete evidence from the prosecution. For example, they found blood on different items in Kohberger's apartment or house. And so we don't know who that tested positive for.
Thank you for watching. Go to
All right. So there we go. Melanie, what do you, any thoughts on what Jesse just said there?
You know, I mean, his attorney is going to report what she's told by her client, but they also had mountains of electronic evidence to go through. If they went through all of that and found no connection to them, is the fact that I don't know if he followed any of them on social media. I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's another one of those things that's kind of out there. People create social media accounts under other people's names all the time. So
Right.
I don't even know how accurate that might be. I mean, somebody could be impersonating you, DutyRon, right now and making friends on Instagram or Facebook. You know, there's a lot of interesting comments here that maybe we should just address. And I just wanted to look at this particular one by PB&J. Melanie, that glove found was by a known ex-retired cop who is known for his scrupulous behavior for clicks. Do you mean to say unscrupulous behavior for clicks and views and for forcing teens into false confessions when he was a cop? There is some truth to this. If it's what I'm thinking about, there was something called Stickergate in Moscow years ago where some teenagers, and I don't know if it's
not what she's referring to, but PB&J, again, if you know, I mean, I know you know this channel, you know me.
right.
I don't get involved in that type of conversation. That may or may not be a thing. It's not something that I get involved in because I feel like it's wasted time, but it is
Right.
something that's going on, and it is something that's in the conversation right now. But I won't go into that here. And Melanie, it had nothing to do with Stickergate, but I appreciate that comment.
But there was some,
Yes.
you know, there was some evidence of like a Brady Giglio issue in this case, and I don't know that that's been resolved, and that is what a Brady material is. So if that is
Absolutely.
true, it will come out somehow.
What Melanie
somebody will
is
bring it
bringing
up.
up there is definitely a thing. That's something that you brought to my attention and I looked into. But again, the comment that you highlighted on the screen, I know you weren't aware of it, but
Yeah.
that is that's Jagaloon type 101 behavior. And that statement that you highlighted there is a thing that's happening right now. I won't get into that type of garbage. To me, that's just not what my channel is about. But it is something that people are talking about. So thank you for that. Let's go to Jesse. He had a month ago a death penalty sort of open discussion. And he brought in an expert from one of the universities, and I thought that it was very interesting. We don't have time to play the whole thing. It's 15 minutes of conversation with a law professor, a really well-spoken man, and Jesse asked him quite a bit of things. This is obviously a month prior to today. And I want you guys to hear just a little bit of what this professor had to say, because it was interesting. And he talked about politics, and he talked about some of the things that go into the decision of a prosecutor going for the death penalty. So let's just take a peek at this. Let's take a listen to this, and we'll be right back.
Of him facing the death penalty. It's a big topping point in this case, because after all, he's going to be facing trial for the brutal murders of 4 young people. And in this case, could that result in capital punishment? Because as of right now, prosecutors have a 60-day window to file notice if they are in fact pursuing the death penalty. So who better to talk about this than a very special guest? I'm joined right now by Professor Jules Epstein. Professor Epstein is the Edward D. Allbaum Professor of Law and Director of Advocacy Programs at Temple University Beasley School of Law. He has taught death penalty law nationally to judges and attorneys, and he continues to handle capital cases at the appellate and post-conviction stages. From all of us here at Sidebar, Professor, it is an honor to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to get right into it. The prosecutors have this 60-day window. What considerations do you think that they're weighing right now on whether or not to pursue the death penalty?
So there are three. One is a purely legal one. Not every murder case is death penalty eligible. So Idaho, where this case will be tried, has a list of what are called aggravating factors. Not just did I kill someone, but did I kill someone and was during a robbery? Or did I kill someone and that person was a police officer? Or did I kill someone and I have killed before? So just purely legally, prosecutors go through this to say, do we have an aggravating factor? The second thing, I hate to say it, is what I'm going to call political. Okay. How will it play in the community if we do? How will it play in the community if we don't? Prosecutors can be elected officials. They have to worry about that. I'm not suggesting that's a proper consideration, but if you're talking about realistically, is it a consideration? You bet. Then there's a third consideration, and that's positioning yourself for advantage. If this case is tried as a death penalty case, the only people who could be on the jury are people who believe in the death penalty. If you're against the death penalty, you're automatically excluded. And studies have shown, and it makes some sense, that if you're pro-death penalty, you're more likely, sort of pro-law enforcement, more likely to vote guilty. So on the front end, the guilty or not guilty stage, the prosecutor gets an advantage by calling the case a death penalty case because of the smaller pool of jurors. So those to me are the, okay. I should add, there's one other possible.
I'll allow one more. I'll allow one more. I'm just kidding.
And that is, are we doing more harm than good? Okay. What do I mean? If this case is not capital, in other words, not a death penalty case, it can go to trial a lot sooner. The likelihood of it getting overturned on appeal is much lower. Once you put death into the mix, it takes a longer time to prepare the case, a longer time to try the case, and there are more appeals. And at least some prosecutors are aware of that's not always the healthiest thing for the victims' families.
Some great points. And again, it was 15 minutes. I'm going to link that for you guys to go. It's an education, because I didn't know that you had to be pro-death to serve on a death penalty case.
100%. You during voir dire, which is when they question jurors to determine who they want to allow on the case and who they want to challenge for cause and who they will not allow on the case, you have to admit that you would consider the death penalty.
Right. And let me play devil's advocate here. And again, I knew this before we went live, but what I'm saying is that when he a month ago pointed that out, like, a lot of people have forgotten about that. And when you are facing the death penalty, I'm talking about Kohberger being the defendant here, and you know that the jury of your peers all have to be in agreement that the death penalty is a viable option. Like, in other words, somebody can't come on there and say, I am Catholic and I don't believe in, the only person that can take a life is God. Those people can't be jurors. Correct. I mean, some will argue in the chat, and let me know by a show of hands in the chat if you feel that I'm on the right page here, that almost seems like unfair.
It almost seems unfair that a juror would have to agree that they would sentence him to death to be on the jury. But if a juror says I would never sentence him to death, then how could they possibly serve?
Yeah. I guess you're right. Yeah. But it just, again, this opens up more conversation for people to say, well, this is just a lynching. He's just got a bunch of people who are for the death penalty, and they're going to look at this. But again, Melanie, you ground everybody, and I'm playing that devil's advocate here.
They also take an oath that they're going to listen to all the evidence that they are going to weigh all of the evidence, that they are not going to read the newspaper, watch television, read social media, that
Right.
they are not going to discuss the case with anyone. So, you know, they have to agree to do a lot of things, and agreeing that to sentence someone to death is one of them. But that's also, he's right. The jury pool is a lot smaller because there are a lot of people who would not agree to sentence someone to death. I mean, that's
right. And listen, I'm raised Catholic myself, and my aunt is a Catholic nun, and I, in certain instances, and like this is one of them, I agree in the death penalty. Police, lawyers, doctors, judges, all the aggravating factors in the death penalty clause, I agree with that. You know, there's some people that shouldn't be walking the face of the earth. Some people shouldn't be breathing our air. Like even Chris Watts. People ask me every day about Chris Watts. Do you feel that he should have been put to death? My answer to that is yes. But in that situation, the prosecutor went to the family and got the family's input and sided with the family and made the decision, not solely in part by what the family said, but he went to North Carolina from Colorado and visited Shanann's parents and sat with them in their kitchen and had a conversation with them about the death penalty.
And here we have a split.
Yeah.
Some of the families want it. Some of the families are very against it. So despite what the families wanted in this case, there was not a consensus among the families, and they decided to go for it anyway. At this point, remember, this can always be withdrawn, but they had to file it within the 60 days or they could never file it.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, hashtag Melanie, hashtag DutyRon. We're going to look at the chat now for 10 minutes. It's 50 minutes. This thing went by so fast, Melanie.
It always does, doesn't it?
I feel like we really didn't even talk about a lot, but we did. We covered quite a bit. I predicted that the prosecution would go for the death penalty. Bill Cannon, same thing. Most of the police, the retired police, I think you agreed that they would go for this. I think that they felt this way all along, and the telltale sign was getting Ann Taylor in on the mix. I don't know if I'm off base on this because this is not my expertise, but when they assigned Ann Taylor, who is one of, I think, 2 or 3 death, capital punishment qualified legal aids in the state of Idaho, they did that. I said, they're going to be going for the death penalty in this case, and several other things. But let's take a look and see what we got in the chat for any questions.
I don't want to highlight any of the wrong comments, so maybe you better take the reins on this one.
Forget about that.
No, all right. I had that was a joke. I had something interesting that I thought here's one from Fremont. Oh, if he was set up, why wouldn't he say that? Scream if you're not guilty. But no, he's just saying, did you arrest anyone else? Not saying anything. The number one right that they read you in the Miranda warnings, right? You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. As an attorney, I would advise my client to never speak to anyone. Nobody is your friend when you are arrested for any kind of crime. Just keep your mouth shut and wait until your lawyer gets there. I don't care, because no matter what you say, it's going to be twisted in a way that can and will be used against you. And really, what opportunity has he been given to speak at all? Yeah, he hasn't. I mean, he can't speak in handcuffs. He can't speak from jail. He has an attorney, so he has had no opportunity to really get out there and profess his innocence. But I would never recommend that to anybody. And listen, just the fact that anything that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, that's enough right there to have somebody just, hey, I'm in deep shit as it is. Let me just keep my mouth shut. And I would advise anybody that gets in a situation like that. Hashtag Aunt BB2. Thank you, Aunt BB2, for being a channel member. Thank you for all of your support, and your presence here is greatly appreciated. Aunt BB2 says, hashtag DutyRon and Melanie. Do you think the jury will be sequestered? When's the last time we saw a jury sequestered? It's been a while. It's hard to say. I'm curious if this case is going to stay in Latah County, and if it's going to be moved to a different county. I don't know. It's going to depend on how long the trial goes. Right. They would be sequestered only for the period of deliberations. I mean, we've seen recently in cases in Idaho, juries were out for a couple of days. I mean, I think it could be a possibility. In
Right.
this case, we'll see. We'll see.
And I think that you brought up a good thing too as well in that statement, is that Ann Taylor is going to ask for a change of venue. There's nothing that she could lose by asking that. The judge could just say no,
Right.
or he could grant it. I see that definitely. There's a valid argument for that.
Right.
But I also go back to George Floyd, and I look at the police who were all tried in that same location, where you could not turn on your TV and see him being killed on national television,
Right.
by these police officers. That trial, the defense attorneys asked for a change of venue, and it was denied. So that sets a precedence for this argument of, this is all over the news. This is, everybody's talking about it. How can my clients get a fair and impartial jury and a trial, a fair shake? If
It's a very small
got a fair
county.
shake and got tried for George Floyd, this thing, and again,
What county was that, and what was the population? I think that the population in Latah County is, I remember I looked it up once. I think it's only around 40,000 people.
it's 25,000.
25,000. That's even smaller. That's an even smaller jury pool. And how many of those are eligible to serve, being of a certain age and,
Lorraine Johnson's agreeing about the jury sequestered. It costs too much money and it's not necessary. Again, college town, those decisions or get made, I believe, by the judge, right?
Yeah. And also it really doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, if you're putting 12 people up at the, the Days Inn in town, it's not, when you're, you got to weigh what the importance of sequestering the jury would be to get a fair verdict against sending them home.
Right.
I don't think money is really the deciding factor here.
Okay. It definitely does cost, because they got to put them all in hotels, give them food. Goofy Girl says, if you don't want people to talk about your crime, don't commit it. Goofy Girl, I just picture you with like the McGruff crime. Do the crime, do the time. Let's unpack that is here. Hi, Kristen. I hope Chris is doing better. I sent you a message before I went live that the phone that you were texting me on was left in my wife's car over the weekend. I was having some fun with the missus out and about, and that phone was left in her center console and it died. So I just looked at it today when I got it back when she came home from work. So sending you and Chris strength, prayers, and positive vibes, recovering from major surgery for cancer, her husband. So we're sending you nothing but our best. Let's look and see if there's anything more, because we're going to wrap in a few. Jeff F is in the chat, and he's saying, honest people don't have to lie to cover their innocence. Guilty people have to lie to cover their guilt. I mean, that's a general statement, but it's not always, the case. A lot of people get, there's a lot of wrongful convictions out there, right? We could talk about the Innocence Project, and
we could talk about the reasons that people lie. We saw a lot of lying in the Harmony Montgomery case. I mean,
absolutely. And I'm in no way, shape, or form a fan of Bryan Kohberger or any criminal or anybody who's anybody who is being charged with heinous crimes as such. But if he in fact is found innocent, then my conversation is done. I don't continue on and say he's guilty. If he's found innocent in a court of law, I respect the laws of our land. And that's something that I have always stood by. So, but again, folks, there's a process that has to happen here. And this process, because of all the gag orders and now things are lightened up and things, don't expect a lot of information to just start the floodgates. And Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong. You're the expert here. Don't expect the floodgates to open up on the defense's half. They have no vested interest in blabbering all over the TV. You're not going to hear Ann Taylor being interviewed by CNN or NBC or News Nation or
she's gagged.
CIA. It's not happening.
No, there's a gag order.
But Banfield certainly has a burner phone, and she'll continue to call Bryan Kohberger.
She's waiting for Kohberger's call every day.
She loves him. Oh my God. Oh, Banfield, what happened to you?
My.
So D Banks is here, one of our great friends of Crime Time with DutyRon. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all the moderators. The mod squad is in full effect here tonight. This is a no jagaloon zone, right? I'm going to reach for it. Give me a second. Last time I reached for it, I spilled the water all over my desk. No jagaloons.
Mhm.
We do not allow it on Crime Time with DutyRon. I appreciate you guys all being here. So Cami says, follow the money. University and Law Enforcement Control Moscow. This is another conversation for another live stream, but not this one. But thank you for that, Cami. Southwest 4x4 Explorer says, the mod squad is awesome. And speaking of awesome, there's Miss Donna Marie. She has to be the one. This is how I picture Donna Marie, because I never met her, but I've spoken with her quite a few times. And I picture her as, when back in the day when new families would move into the community and there would be that welcoming wagon.
The welcome wagon, sure. Bringing over cupcakes
Miss
and
Donna Marie,
a basket full of stuff.
She's the DutyRon welcome wagon committee. Right?
She came on my channel today. She watched my video about the Kevin Costner divorce. If anybody's interested, go over there and watch it. It's pretty interesting stuff.
I'm going to link it here.
But I am going to say also, I do not see this trial going ahead in October. I just don't see it, especially now that it's a death penalty case. There needs to be a lot more prep for this. It's we're already at end of June. That's only 90 days to prep a death penalty case. They still probably haven't been through they still are owed evidence. There's, I don't see it happening.
There's quite a bit of information to be exchanged. There was all of those gigabytes of flash drives and so forth, and everything else that hasn't been given to them. I don't see October 2nd as a viable date for this thing to kick off now, especially now, since today's breaking news that they are going to try Bryan Kohberger under the death penalty clause. And that statute, again, that puts this to a different level of importance and also, a
Timing.
lot. Yeah, preparation. And they're not going to rush this. This is not going to be a telephone, slam job. They're not going to be like, hey, getting a commitment. They're going to take their time. They're going to do it right because they don't want to have any problems. They don't want it
to be overturned. They don't want to see a mistrial. And that's why they're keeping everybody quiet, because they don't want to, have a mistrial. That gentleman who spoke before, that professor, about death penalty, and he said sometimes it's political, and it could be very political in this case. Listen, the University of Idaho is a very influential in that county. They bring in a lot of money, they bring in a lot of tourism, they bring in a lot of students who are spending money in the town. So, and who knows who's running for office soon. So yeah, it could be a political decision too, but I do agree with you that I think that this is one of the cases where the death penalty should absolutely be sought.
Yeah, 100%. And Melanie, guess what? The thing of it is that this, again, like you said, this is the case of their careers. Everybody involved in this. Sure. Ann Taylor, for the defense, and her team. Bill Thompson and his team, the Moscow Police Department, Captain Lanier, Chief Fry, everybody is got a hand in the fight here. I want to try to gift out some memberships since we had over 2,000 here. So I like to, me, I like to give stuff away. I like to, gift out stuff. So
you're very generous.
What we need for you guys to do is put in the chat #DutyRon, #Melanie, and I need you to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. We got to get the thumbs up on this video to, where are we right now? Over 1,000. We're at 877. Melanie, I don't know what happened to you.
I was swiping and I swiper, keep swiping.
That's the little bit of Italian in you. So once we get the thumbs up to 1,000, I'm going to start to give away some free memberships.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Just get that thumbs up going. We're almost at 900, so I know you guys can do it. #DutyRon, Twyla is in the chat. I have to mention Twyla. She's the EquiSearch Midwest drone director and search coordinator.
Oh yes.
Searches for the missing. Twyla has been on the show many a times. She had surgery on her hand. Very painful surgery to correct tendons and things going up and into her hands. I actually have pictures of her hand. She was sending them back and forth to me. Let's send Twyla lots of prayers and hugs and positive vibes for a good healing. She might need it again on her other hand. It might have been from her doing repetitive stuff, and she's out there searching for the missing. We have video and footage of her combing through the woods with a rake looking for people. So Twyla's doing God's work out there. We're close to the 1,000. That was very quick. We're at 900.
Well, come on, keep it going, people.
So Twyla, we love you. We're sending you all of our best for a speedy recovery. I see a lot of hashtag DutyRons, a lot of hashtag love for Twyla, hashtag Melanie. Come on, let's do it. I know we could do it. 50 more likes on the.
Let's see another comment here while we're waiting. Do you think BK's first question asking if someone else was arrested was just to throw the LEO? Like, I don't know. Like, did he really say that? How did we get that information? I wonder. I can't remember the source of that information, but it's telling. It had me thinking about it for a little while too. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Whether it was to throw law enforcement off, and I can't remember what the source of that information was, so I don't know if we can even trust that information. Let's see what else we have here.
We're at 987.
We're getting there. Death penalty drags out the case and the grief for over 20 years. You are correct about that. The appeals process on a death penalty conviction can take 20 years. That is absolutely 100% correct. Let's see what we have here.
Twyla, we love you.
Oh, this is very sweet. Thank you, Ash Cash.
Twyla's daughter. All right, we made it. 1,000.
Guess what? I do it all. I do it all myself, Filio. Hairstyle. In fact, when Ron asked me at 8 o'clock if we could do this show at 9 o'clock, I said, if we're doing this show, you have to give me enough time to get camera ready because it is so disgustingly humid today in New York that my hair was out to here. So,
and what did I say to you about my hair?
He actually needed an extra 15 minutes to do his own hair and makeup. He had to polish up his head. I don't know what was going on there. Looks good. Looks good. Put a little powder on there.
All right, we made it to 1,000 thumbs up. So let's deliver 20 free memberships. If you want a free membership, put in the chat hashtag Melanie. I'm going to make them spell it out. Right. Hashtag Melanie.
Spell it right.
Not Melody, Melanie. So that'll give you a chance to get a free membership. We'll pump out 20 of them. Providing my credit card goes through. We got to make sure.
So, the first 20. Well, I know what you were doing yesterday out there and on the water. You sent me.
I don't do.
Oh, did you lose your credit card?
I could start a poll. No, I did not. So let's do the memberships. Hold on. How do I do this? All right. Show chat. There it is. All right, Melanie. Let's gift out 20 memberships, $100. Let's see if the credit card, you think it'll go through, Melanie?
What's the over under on this? I'm going to say, yeah.
It's my Amex.
You're making a lot of money from your YouTube channel.
I make a lot of money from working, not from my YouTube channel.
I know. What's with the job thing? You're always at work, always so busy.
We just did it. 20 memberships. Let's see who gets them. I'd like to stop it.
Does it pick them randomly? How does this work? Is it like you spin a wheel or picks them randomly?
Look,
that's cool.
PB&J got a membership for putting that comment.
No, PB&J, by the way, followed up with another comment saying, "I am not a jagaloon. I was not trying to be a jagaloon. However, I was just pointing something out." So
it's all good. Cheryl was gifted a membership. Let's see. Already a member. Beth says already a member, but still participating. Cheryl, Planet Life was gifted a membership. PB&J, welcome to the memberships. Papa Smurth is giving a thumbs up. Congratulations to all the winners. Wow, that went fast. I didn't even catch 20. I was only just able to catch a few.
Look at Lorraine Lawrence says we both look fantastic. Thank you, Lorraine. That's very sweet of you.
Appreciate that. All right, so an hour and 10 minutes. I think it's time to wrap it up. We gifted out $100 worth of memberships. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow to see what happens in this court proceeding. Don't expect a lot, but again, I think that with having the cameras in the courtroom, we're going to get to see the inner workings. Our good friend, Miss Burkhart from Burkhart Law, she's going to be in the courtroom and reporting live. She's a great friend of the channel. She does great commentary. She's a criminal defense attorney out of the state of Washington. She's a great girl, and she's taking her time out. She's going to be in the courtroom. She's been there for the last several appearances, and she wants to get that feel of what, when Bryan Kohberger comes into the court, and she gives a good play-by-play on her videos.
Does she live in Idaho, or she's traveling there specifically?
She's traveling from it's a little distance, but she's
Good.
put time out to go and do this. So it's great. So thank you for everyone being a part of the community here. Thank you for giving the thumbs up and getting the likes up to over 1,000 before we're ending here. Joey Brooklyn is our main, he's my director of security. Joey Brooklyn is a great friend, and he is the reason why I'm here. He actually pushed me to come to YouTube and said, this is the place for you to be.
That's what I meant to highlight. I highlighted the wrong one because it moves so fast. You guys are chatting so quickly.
Sherry,
we love being part of the family too. I love being part of the family. This is a really great family.
Thank you.
They say you can't pick your family, but you kind of can.
Yeah, in this case we did.
Right?
Norma, thank you for being here. Brenda Redmond says the best channel ever. We love and appreciate you. Sean B, a great friend of Crime Time with DutyRon. She came aboard with the Gabby Petito case, and I think quite a few of my subscribers are here from Gabby Petito, and we'll never forget her and her family, Nicole, Jimmy, Joe, and Tara. Just a great American family. Jeff, there's our great friend from the state of Wyoming, and he's invited me and Ed, and probably you're now invited, and to come to his ranch over in Wyoming and spend some time in the wilderness. Jeff says the love from DutyRon, all on the panel along with in this chat, is the reason I love this channel. Bonus is all the awesome content. Thank you. All right, let's wrap it up. Melanie, thank you for taking out 1 hour and 15 of your precious time on a Monday. I'm having a endoscopy and a colonoscopy on Wednesday, just so everybody knows. So tomorrow I'm down and out, and Wednesday I'll be under anesthesia.
The worst.
Yeah, no, I take the
Gotta
pills.
do it.
I do the pill. So for World Trade Center, we get these things a little bit more often, and checking is part of the federal World Trade Center health monitoring, and I take advantage of that. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 days. I'm sure everything will be fine, but we got to get checked out and make sure that big C is no longer or nowhere in the mix. My head, my back. Oh, what a mess. Skin cancer sucks. Stay out of the sun. It's not your friend. Yesterday, Melanie, I was like, I had a hat on. That's why I didn't send you any selfies yesterday. I had a hat on, I had the umbrella. Then I took the hat off, and then my wife was like, it's coming through the umbrella. You got to put the hat back on. Roasting, but you can't be out in the sun. There were some people that were hours sitting in the sun, beet red, just burning up.
It's the 1 day of sun we've had in the past week, and now it's going to rain again all week. But
yeah, stinks. Listen, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Melanie Little, we want to wish you guys a good rest of your week. Let's follow this case closely. And again, if you're not yet subscribed, consider subscribing to my channel and also to Melanie Little's channel. I'll link it down below in the description. Go and watch her uploaded video about Kevin Costner. It's a really fascinating story. She did a great job, 30 some odd minutes of her giving her commentary. I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to go over there and get to know her, subscribe to her channel. Let's get her monetized so she could start doing informative live streams like this and having us, me and Bill and some of the others as guests on her channel. That would be great.
Yeah.
So we'll speak to you guys all soon. Melanie, again, thank you so much.
Of course. I'm always here for you.
Thank you. And let's
Have a
stand
great
by.
night, everyone.
Yes, let's stand by for a message from the cop team. That's Kara, Oscar, and Popeye. Heard him chirping. I had to turn the lights off. That's why I had to get up, turn everything down. So he just stopped.
You don't put like a blanket over his cage or something?
Well, he was starting to say the F word. He was cursing in the background. And so that's why I said, I have to get up. I got to go do something. Got to shut the lights.
That's funny, actually.
The bird was saying F you. Good night, guys. Peace from New York.